I don't think so.
Take a seat. We would be honored if you would join us.
All right, so here is a topic for you. We got a good one. It seems like most people will talk about the top worst things that Disney's ever done to Star Wars, and that's fair. Do it. But we're going to switch it up. We're going to spend the next hour talking about all of our favorite Star Wars that has been created under the Disney banner. Doesn't mean the best. Doesn't mean the most amazing, the most perfect. It's just what we like. Okay? Because there's been a lot of good Star Wars, a lot of bad Star Wars, a lot of disagreements over the years. I know, because I'm Tyler Bodkins. I've been in this fight since I was 8 years old. And with me, he's where the fun begins. It's Cameron Porter.
I was just writing down the 10 things that I dislike about you the most.
Number one, the boisterous energy for absolutely zero reason.
No.
Why? Why am I coming in so hot? It's because I'm excited, man.
I am too.
All right, good. We're excited. I hope that anyone listening or watching on YouTube is excited. I think this is going to be a fun one. I'm really into it.
I've got my cold brew, so.
You got your cold brew. I got my bubbly and some crackers. It was like, you just ate dinner. I'm about to eat dinner. It was like a little snack to so it is what it is. You're going to hear some crackers on this microphone, just a cracking, but we're going to have a cracking time. I think that's what they say in the UK. Anyways, so I'm excited. We were just talking about, and we just mentioned it, at the very top here. It's, there's a lot of critique and criticism and negativity. And I'm not even going to make the argument or assessment of whether it's warranted or unwarranted. It's just there's a lot. What if instead we spend the next hour just focusing on the stuff we really like?
Yeah.
Because I've been watching a lot of Star Wars in the past week. We'll talk about that. And I was sort of, as I was watching it, A, I was having a blast. And B, I was like, how can people not think this is great? Like I can't. We'll get into it. I don't mean to ruffle too many feathers, but maybe we're gonna have a good time while we do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start off by just jumping right in. We're gonna go 10 through 1. I've got my list. You got your list?
Yep.
Cameron's got his list, and we might double up. That's fine. We can still just talk about what we like about whatever that thing is. And
yeah, I'm wondering if there's going to be any overlap.
There's got to be some overlap, bro. There absolutely has to be. Whether it overlaps on the same exact number or not, who knows?
Yeah.
I try to go in order, but some of this is like, depends on the day of the week. Depends on the vibe that I'm looking for. I got some animation. You got
Spoiler
some animation?
alert.
Tell me.
My number one pick is Sid from Bad Batch.
All right, so there is animation on Cameron's list too. That's great. And it can be, the way we're doing this is like, it can be a show, it can be a season, it can be an episode, it can be a movie, it can be a comic, it can be a game, it can be a character, it can be anything. So there's nothing off limits. It's mainly just like moments that you love. I got a couple honorable mentions, like where it's like, oh, I picked this, but also it relates to that.
Yeah.
So we'll toss in some of that. There's the structure. Those are the rules if there are any. And yeah, let's just start in number 10, our favorite Star Wars under the Disney banner, which is anything that's come out since 2012.
All
Cameron,
right.
what's
You want me to start?
number 10? Yeah, bro. Let's hear it.
Number 10, Galleries and Lights and Magic. The documentaries that we get following every Star Wars show, and then Lights and Magic was a documentary they made like about the inception of Lucasfilm and all this, the ILM, their special effects division that they like created and still operates to this day.
It's been, it's so fascinating because it's not just Star Wars. It's Jurassic Park and Pirates of the Caribbean.
Indiana Jones.
And tons of different productions over the years. You can thank George Lucas straight for that one. And I am with you. It's a fantastic documentary.
Yep.
And, we haven't gotten a gallery for Ahsoka. We haven't gotten a gallery for The Acolyte.
That's true.
Will.
Yeah, might not.
That said, bro, the first gallery The one for
Mandalorian. Yeah,
they had like 8 episodes.
that blew my mind in a lot of ways.
We were eating good, weren't we?
Yeah.
That was when it was like, oh, we're gonna get Star Wars every single week.
Mhm.
Like it felt that way, and then COVID happened, and everything else happened. I like that you went with the documentary.
Yeah,
that's got this list feeling really.
It's just a good like addition, to expect a documentary, at least one documentary, if not a series, kind of following a lot of the stuff they're doing now. I mean, it seems logical if you're going to film something.
Yeah.
Might as well just like tack on a little bit of footage from the behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
And then we got such good stuff with the Mandalorian one because we got the round table with like all of the directors and
actors, and special effects people. Like that's what was so cool about that first season, is it was everything, right?
So yeah, maybe one week we should watch Lights and Magic and then just kind of riff with each other about some of our favorites.
Down. I actually started to rewatch it about a month or two ago. I watched the first episode. I didn't keep going, but I would love to rewatch it.
So good.
Don't get me started. I'll do it next week if we don't get a Skeleton Crew trailer, which I just get the feeling like something in the Force. It's like it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. All right, we'll see.
We got solid Lego leak news recently, so yeah, that should.
I'm sure
be
we're going to
coming.
talk Legos somewhere on your list. Goodness, my number 10 is the Jedi series: Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, your boy Cal Kestis. To me, in terms of like a Star Wars combat game, it's my favorite since The Force Unleashed, which is we're going back pretty far. The Force Unleashed, was that PS3? Maybe it was PS2. Like the first game I did in PS2, I can't remember, but
that could have been.
I think it was PS3.
Yeah, 3.
Because PS2 was like Episode 3, which was a classic, classic game. Either way, it's been a long time since I've had as much fun. And, we discussed the rumor. There was that leak a couple of weeks ago that Cal Kestis is going to get a live action debut. And I'm going to be real. I wouldn't have thought that I would be that excited about a random video game character. I say random. Obviously he's a protagonist, but you get what I mean? Like a video game character coming to live action, but I'm pumped. Like I've really enjoyed the series. The story has been so interesting. It feels so Star Wars and so tied to the original trilogy, yet the prequels as well with the Inquisitors and everything that happened with Order 66. It's a thing you and I have talked about before where you get this nice blend of the old and the new, the prequels and the classic trilogy. So, we just call the prequels new. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's still new. It's always new.
It feels new.
It feels new.
Yeah.
It feels right. All right. So, that's my number 10. I'll give an honorary shout out to Battlefront. And I wanted to mention that because I wanted to mention this comic. If you're not watching on YouTube, Star Wars, The Battle of Jakku, Insurgency Rising, issue 2. I'm just going to say there's some Battlefront tie-in.
Ooh.
There is some tie-in to a couple of characters who are parents of characters from the sequel trilogy. There's some tie-in there. There's some, obviously you see Bib Fortuna on the front cover. There's a lot of interesting things. There's some sequel stuff coming in. It's pretty sick. I enjoyed this issue more than the first issue, which I said was fine.
Yeah.
It was setting it up, obviously. This is getting into some good stuff. Luke Skywalker's doing his thing. Leia and Mon Mothma are doing their thing. It's cool. So I just want to shout that out. So yeah, Cameron, number 9. What you got, bro?
My honorable mention, since you went ahead with yours.
Oh, I got a bunch of honorables.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
No, please.
I was going to say the Knights of Ren was an honorable mention for me because those are such cool characters. We didn't get to see a whole lot of them on screen, but I enjoyed them.
You know what? I get the feeling that we might.
I hope so.
I feel like the Mandoverse movie could
tie in.
The big culmination could absolutely have some Knights of Ren.
God, that would be so cool.
Because they were supposed to be out in the unknown region.
Yeah.
Thrawn was, he wasn't in the unknown region necessarily, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it tracks. Please.
Number 9 was exploration of prequel era Star Wars, aka High Republic. I meant that as in like
High Republic
because we kind of got Tales of the Jedi a little bit
Yeah.
with Dooku's backstory and such. But just anything pre-episode 1, I'm glad that we're getting to explore that. So
Yeah.
High Republic, Acolyte, just that's kind of low on the list because it's not my favorite era of Star Wars, and it still feels, and we talked about this when we talk about High Republic comics, at times it can feel a little bit clunky because sometimes it jumps around a little bit. And it's unfamiliar territory, so I put it kind of low on the list, but I am glad that we're exploring like new eras of Star Wars.
I know that's something that is high on your priority. You like it when stories get out of the way of the things that we know and go into a time period where the options are a little bit more open.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like you're very drawn to that, and I'm with you. I think it's great.
Yeah, yeah.
My number 9, Bad Batch. Bad Batch. Just the entire show.
Yep.
Just give me the whole thing. Give me Wrecker. Give me Hunter. Give me Omega. Let me get Tech back. Tech lives. I enjoyed watching Bad Batch. It was fun talking about it week to week.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember all the way back to season 1, just loving being back in Star Wars animation, being back with this group of characters, the tone of the show, the twists, the turns. Obviously, you can't forget Sid. Cameron's favorite character of
Thank
all
God
time.
for Sid.
It's like Sid and then Han Solo right below her.
Man.
Cameron, you love Sid. All right. But yeah, I would say Bad Batch is a big one. Honorable mention, because you made me remember it, Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah,
Those are
yeah.
great.
That almost made it on my list.
I mean, the Star Wars animation team, it's not the only animated series on my list by a long shot. And I would just say that, like, yeah, I love Bad Batch. I'm interested to see what might happen in the future with those characters. You know, it was obviously left a little open.
Yeah.
Let's just say it like that. It was left a little open, and I'd like to see it explored some. So hopefully one day we will. I'm sure we will. So that's my number 9.
That'd be cool.
I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
Cameron, what's your number 8?
Number 8, I threw in some some canonical additions to the Star Wars universe.
Okay.
I mean, there were some things that were explored in Legends that were actually made canon by things in Disney era Star Wars. So I threw Vader's Castle on my list because Vader's Castle was made canon when it appeared in Rogue One for the first time. And since then, we've seen it explored in other areas.
Yeah.
A Lego set of it was made. I don't know. Lego's never really explored a lot of Legends type stuff. They try to kind of stick to the familiar.
Sure.
So we got a Lego set of it, which was cool. But yeah, Vader's Castle made in canon, I thought was sweet.
What did Vader's Castle appear in previous to that? Do you know? Like, what would it have been in Legends?
I think it was there was a comic run by, what's the lesser known as IGN?
Oh, IDW. Yeah.
IDW. Yeah, they did a Vader's Castle run at one point.
I feel like those were after Rogue One, though. Am I wrong?
I don't. Those specifically might have been, but either way, when I was like doing a little bit of research and kind of preparing myself, I went back and looked through because when I was making my list, I was like, what are some things that Disney chose to make canon?
I see.
And that was on one of the lists, was Vader's Castle being...
I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, now I will say this too. Those comics are not technically canon.
I was about to say, because I think only the Disney ones are canon. What about Dark Horse?
That's still Disney, because IDW, they then lost the license to Dark Horse, who does the High Republic stuff.
Okay.
So some of it's canon, some of it's not. I think the Tales from Vader's Castle were not. I have some of them. I've got
like 4 of them, I think.
But either way, I see what you're saying. Just the introduction of it into, I was just curious if it, I didn't know
Into
if it
mainstream.
was like I just didn't know if it was like an old EU thing but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. My number 8. Oh man, I think I got it up here. Yeah. Solo. Solo. Man, I gotta say, we've talked about it on the pod plenty of times. We love Solo here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun movie. It's cool, man.
Yep.
Like, it's just cool. Like, when I watch that movie, it looks cool. The acting is cool. Everything is fun and exciting. The ships look great. The music is solid. You got Donald Glover, Alden Ehrenreich, Emilia Clarke, Woody Harrelson. Like, everybody's in the movie. It's great. And every time I watch it, I have a fun time.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say there's not some stuff. See, we can get into it. There's some things. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Han Solo getting his last name from an Imperial whatever. Like, that's kind of weird. I'm even cool with Han being an ex-Imperial. Like, that's fine. That doesn't bother me. It's just like, the whole Solo, because you're by yourself and you don't have anybody. It's like...
Could have been Han alone.
Yeah.
Han, no one around you.
You're right. It could have been worse.
Han, no family. Yeah.
But that's, whatever. But I like that it brought Lando back. I like that we've got so much of a backstory to the character of Han, because, like, it's honestly a very believable thing that explains, because, you don't just show up grizzled and jaded like he did in episode 4, And so it really does. I feel like that's one of the things that if we're going to use these classic characters and we're going to bring them back and give them things, let's do that. Let's serve the character and explain how they got from the A that we didn't know to the point B where we meet them,
Yeah.
So I'm pumped with it. I love Solo. I know you do too. I know we have a lot of people that listen and watch that do as well. So
that was another one that was made, that was like formalized in canon, was Han Solo's backstory.
True.
Because it had been explored, and I know this because I do actually have this book and read some of it, the Han Solo trilogy.
I was about to say the old Han Solo trilogy back in the day.
Yeah, I've read 2 out of the 3 books in there.
Dang, Cameron, go ahead, bro.
That was Legends. Yeah, that's about the only book reading I've done as far as Star Wars or any other subject goes in the past couple of years. But
not a book reader.
No, comics. I need something. I need a quick bite. I need something that I can read for a couple minutes and get out.
I get in phases. Like last month, I think I was reading literally 2 books a week, and I think I haven't read but maybe 30 pages in the last month. It's weird. I'm very hot and cold.
I have a hard time. I zone out. I think I have so many different avenues and so many different things going on at all times that it's hard for me to focus on one.
Sure.
So if I sit down and read, I could read 15, 20, 30 pages. And then at the end of it, not know what the heck I just read. So then I just get really mad at myself. And I'm like, well, that was a waste of time anyways, because I didn't retain any of it. So just... There's a lot of conversation going on up here sometimes.
I can relate to that. I've had those moments in my life as well. All right, number 7. What you got? Mine's going to be interesting, I feel like.
Number 7 for me, live action Cad Bane.
Yes. This kind of shows up on my list later. But talk to me from your perspective specifically. Cad Bane. Give it to me.
That was just my favorite live action character reveal ever.
When you say live action character reveal, do you mean an animated character that came over to live action?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand right.
Yeah, translation of animation to live. I also wasn't expecting it either. When he showed up,
oh right,
that episode of The Mandalorian was. Yeah. Or was that Book of Boba Fett? No, that was Boba Fett. Yeah. See,
you're spoiler alerting my list, bro. Yeah. Come on. But, keep going.
Yeah, that scene was just so cool. Cobb Vanth, he comes out of the desert, just out of nowhere. The first time he lifts his head up and you see his face and his mouth open and just his nose and everything. He looked scary.
Absolutely. He really was menacing.
Yeah.
For sure. It was just his teeth, how jagged they were. Just that voice that Corey Burton always carries around. Just menacing, scary. I mean, just you just know that.
He wasn't in a rush. That whole exchange, he was just so slow. And they used a lot of pauses in between his words.
I'm trying to think of some of his dialogue with Cobb Vanth, and I'm blanking.
He says, Boba Fett is a cold-blooded killer. Yeah.
Who worked for the...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which is funny because Cad Bane is a cold-blooded killer
who has also worked for the Empire. Yeah.
That's not the quackta calling the back to slide, whatever they say in that show. I don't know. Kayla knows what it is. If she's out there, she'll yell at me.
It's but No, I messed up my.
Isn't it the Quackta calling the Stifling slimy? I think maybe that's what it is.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's John Favreau just writing nonsense, just ridiculous, which is also on my list. I
should have said his appearance in Book of Mandoverse or Mando
Book
Fett.
of Mando Fett, as you have dubbed it.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that. All right. So
what's your 7?
My 7. Chimere being the stranger. I'm not going to spend the next 20, 30 minutes talking about how much I enjoyed the Acolyte. You can go back and listen to all of our episodes where we went into each episode I would say we went pretty in
deep.
depth. Yeah. I think it's maybe episodes like 44 to 50, I think is about roughly us covering the Acolyte. But I got to say, out of everything, one of the most intriguing parts to me was the character of Chimere and the reveal of him being the stranger. I remember we watched, the first 2 episodes and came on the pod and I was like, we know who the stranger is, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that not everyone was totally on board with it being Chimere, but I felt like the setup it took me 2 watches of the first 2 episodes to catch it, In other words, it's like it was there, but it wasn't that obvious. And just the way they made him into the sort of like bumbling fool who ended up being the master.
Yeah.
They literally like gave us like what it would have been like if it was Darth Jar Jar.
Yeah.
And everything about that 5th episode. Well, I would say it started with the 4th episode with him coming down, levitating, flying creepily. I mean, it was ridiculous. And that whole 5th episode of The Acolyte, say what you want about the show, but that episode was amazing.
It was great, yeah.
And his physicality, the brutality in which he acts with, his strength in the Force, his just the whole character and mystique of Chimere and the Stranger. Again, I would love a season 2 because I feel like it would build on those kinds of things. I think it would be even better than season 1. But that said, even just a show or a story about Chimere as the Stranger, I gotta have that.
Yeah.
Man. I hope it's not in like book or comic book form. However, if it is, there's one person that I want to write it, and that's Charles Soule. So
that'd be good.
If I could get Charles Soule telling the story of Chimere the Stranger, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down. What do you think about Chimere the Stranger?
I liked him as a character. I thought I wanted more of it. I wish we would have gotten more exploration of, or maybe more of his dynamic of being like the kind of fidgety weakling.
Yeah.
And then the contrast of him being so strong. But hopefully we'll get more of him explored in something.
Not to get myself into too much trouble loving the Acolyte and talking about Leslie Headland and Kathleen Kennedy, but one of the things that Leslie Headland said when she was doing the publicity for the show was that Chimere was like her. Like that, she wrote herself into the story and it was Chimere. And there was a comment that when Leslie Headland first turned in the Acolyte story script, whatever, Kathleen Kennedy said, "This is a great Star Wars story. Make it a Leslie Headland Star Wars story." In other words, like put more of yourself in it. And I would say that if I could double down on that, it's like if Chimere is you, Leslie, then what Kathleen Kennedy said times 10. Like, and it feels like one of those things where maybe Chimere, I don't know how integral. I know sometimes when I make stuff, just quick tangent. Sometimes when I make stuff, the thing that I start to make, and this isn't a critique on how Leslie Headland did the Acolyte. I hope that she did what she wanted to do. But sometimes the thing that I'm wanting to make, as I'm working on it, it develops into something totally different. And it's like, ooh, I need to chase this.
Yeah.
That, I think, is what would have been really cool with Chimere and the Acolyte. If it would have just been a bit more that stuff.
Yeah.
Not that there wasn't a lot of other cool things. Again, for the most part, I will say I'm definitely fairly positive on the Acolyte, but more Chimere, yes, please.
Yeah, that'd be good.
If we could, if we can get more of that, I'd like it.
Yeah.
Okay. What are we up to? Number 6?
Number 6.
Oh, yo, what's your number 6, Cameron?
I'm going back to my canon editions.
Okay.
Boba Fett's Sarlacc pit escape.
Ooh,
That was a big one for me. I mean, it had been rumored in Legends or explored a little bit, like how did Boba Fett escape from the Sarlacc pit? I remember reading one story that explained it as him somehow being able to communicate with the Sarlacc and kind of seduce it into tightening around his jetpack, creating an explosion, like
a weird thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Or not, but not seduce it, but just like become friends with it, gain its trust. Manipulate it.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that, and I was like, that's a little out there.
A little out there.
So to get what we got in Book of Boba Fett, to actually see that explored in canon, how he made it out of the Sarlacc pit was really cool.
So I want to say it was this show. If I'm wrong, sue me, but I'm pretty sure it was. Did you ever watch the show Parks and Rec?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you remember Patton Oswalt, the comedian actor, did the speech in the show where it was a filibuster?
Oh, yeah, the filibuster
and
episode.
He went up there and detailed how he would start episode 7 of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it was...
Dang. I forgot so, that's what his thing was that he was talking about.
You can fact check me, listener, viewer. I'm not doing it right now, but I think it was Patton Oswalt, or I think it was him on like a talk show talking about it. And apparently Jon Favreau cut, not just took the idea, but like actually like cut it to the audio of the filibuster that Patton Oswalt gave. So like when it says like he reaches out of the thing and then he pulls himself out and like it's literally cut to sync up with that.
Oh,
now,
wow.
I don't know how true that is, but I just had to mention it whenever.
Like if you played his monologue over the top of Boba Fett's escape.
That's right.
It would line right up. That's hilarious.
So I'm not sure if it's true. If it is, there's a YouTube video.
Yeah, somebody's already done it.
Somebody's had to have done that. So
holy cow.
Either way, I think that's awesome, hilarious. My number 6, I'm going back animated.
All right.
I'm going Rebels.
Just in general?
Just in general. We talked about it last week. It's a great show. It's the tone that return to the original trilogy, because Attack of Clones is definitely my top 5 favorite Star Wars films, so you could at me on that. Mm-hmm. Only you can't, because I don't have Twitter or X or whatever. So I love the prequels, but I'm an original trilogy kid. I know that's weird because I'm 35, not 45 or 55. But, when I was 8, like, that's when the special editions were coming out. So for the first 2+ years of my Star Wars fandom, I was watching the original trilogy. There were no prequels. So for me, going to Rebels, the return to the original trilogy vibe and feel, that's what I've been waiting for a really long time. So there's that, coupled with just all of the great characters.
Yeah.
I'll shout out a couple of quick episodes like we did last week. Of course, Twin Sons with Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's the Twilight of the Apprentice, the 2-part finale of season 2. You've got World Between Worlds in season 4. There's just so much great addition to the Star Wars canon within just those 4 seasons of animated Star Wars. So yeah, it's up on my list.
It's a good one.
I gotta have that on.
I knew that would show up on your list in some capacity.
It had to. And if you want to hear us talk about Rebels a bit more, literally our very last episode 61, was about the 10 years of Rebels. And we also talked a little bit about Obi-Wan Kenobi. And actually, before we go into our top half of the list, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I want to say, like, last week we talked about Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2. And again, you can go back and listen to that conversation if you haven't heard it. We flipped a coin trying to decide if I was going to watch Ahsoka or Obi-Wan. And Ahsoka won. Yep. And I watched that whole season. I watched the whole show. I watched it in like 2 nights. I binged the first 4 episodes in one night so that I could wake up the next morning and watch part 5, which shout out to Jordan over there in the Patreon. he's always talking about the 5th episode being one of his favorite things of Star Wars, and yes, me too. And after I finished Ahsoka, I restarted Obi-Wan season 1.
Nice.
So I've seen the first 2 episodes, so I've just got up to the Vader stuff. I'm really excited to jump back in and finish it up. I'll do that in the next week. I've been watching a lot of Star Wars, so I'm excited. And while Obi-Wan Kenobi did not crack my top 10, there's been a lot of great Star Wars. I'm still very much enjoying it. And if I was to honorable shout out Obi-Wan Kenobi, it would be the night during Star Wars Celebration where Obi-Wan Kenobi was supposed to come out the next morning. And instead, they bumped it up, and I read it right before going to bed, and I jumped out of bed, and I stayed up till 1:30 watching. And I left out the part where apparently, the Force shined down on me. I was just that day, I was thinking, how great would it be if we could go back, because I was thinking about Attack of the Clones, episode 2, where I went to a midnight release and saw it with... there were millions of people all around the world watching it, that night.
Yeah.
And I was there, and I was like, it felt so great. I would love if we could do that again with the show, but they come out at 3 a.m. and I got that experience. So that was a great moment just because I wanted it so bad, and then it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And now we get to do that with pretty much every Star Wars series. So I like it better that way, personally, knowing that we're all watching it, or at least we're all able to watch it at the same exact time. I like that. So yeah, enough about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Number 5, what you got?
Not quite. I'm actually changing my number 5.
Oh, okay.
My original number 5 was just consistent releases.
Okay.
But that's kind of a broad one. We can move right on.
Consistent releases, meaning
just
there's always
television
new Star
shows.
Wars.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the best thing. That's the best thing Disney has done. Because I understand... I hear the interface crackling a little bit. We probably got a couple pops, but I think we're all right. I understand the idea of like, hey, we may not be hitting the highs of George Lucas and Star Wars, but man, not that I want like less quality. It's not necessarily that, but I'm just saying like, man, I feel like some of y'all just don't remember what it was like to not get Star Wars
for like years.
Yeah. I mean, you could read the books, and you could occasionally catch, an animated season or whatever. But man, there were some dark times between 97, whenever I was trying to do it, and 2010. Like, there were like 3 movies, guys. Like, it wasn't a lot. That's all I'm saying. And so, it's nice. So I like your number 5, even though you tossed it out. Please, what is your number 5?
My number 5, now that you got me kickstarted kind of on Obi-Wan, and thinking in the context of this list being anything, including like favorite scenes or stuff, the scene in Obi-Wan of Darth Vader pulling that ship down as it's trying to lift off out of the spaceport. Holy cow. That was such, like, when I think I watched that like 5 or 6 times in a row.
Nice.
Because it was just such a cool, I just remember watching it being like, no way, what's he going to do? I remember being so engaged in that particular scene. And then the ship takes off, and then he starts to use the Force on it. And I'm like, there's no way. And then sure enough, I mean, if I remember right, it was like pulling pieces of the ship off, like panels on the outside of it.
I think it was.
Insane. One of my favorite scenes in Star Wars.
Very heavy on the Force Unleashed vibes.
Yeah.
There.
That overpowered Vader that we get to see in the comics, like,
But I'm cool with it. I'll take some overpowered Vader on my TV screens. No problem there. So I'll be watching that maybe tonight. I don't know. It depends on how much Star Wars I watch.
Oh yeah.
We'll see. What are we on? 5?
Yep.
5 for me. Little lower on the list than I might would have thought, but it's because I like a lot of Star Wars. Okay, Andor, with an honorable mention to Rogue One, of course. But man, Andor, dude. Let me say it like this: Cassian's, Diego Luna, like his performance is unreal. Then you add in people like Stellan Skarsgård and. I'm blanking on the name of the woman who played Diego Luna's mom, but Marva.
Oh, yeah.
Like that actress. Like there's just everybody is just crushing it in that show. It's so well written. You've got that the Arcana 5 arc that Bo Willimon wrote, that the Luthen dialogue, the No Way Out, that whole thing, like. But I mean, just the tone of the show, the gritty nature, all of it. Oh, Juno, my cat, is now hanging out with us. So. Apologies. But there's so much about that show that Nicholas Pertel, the score, I could go on for days. The cinematography. I was watching a scene the other day. And I was just like, just look at how well the cinematography is edited. Like, this is insane. I mean, it legitimately is one of the best TV shows I've seen in I don't know how long. It's lower on my list. It's forward because I'm rating things on my Star Wars scale, and there's just a difference. I don't know if that makes sense, but to me it does. So,
I was talking to somebody this past weekend. I ran into somebody at a birthday party, and he was telling me, he was like, "Dude, did you know that there's another season of Andor coming out?" I was like, "Oh, I know."
We know.
And he was like, "That's literally my favorite Star Wars they've ever made."
That's great. I love that
dang.
for people because I can totally see it. Like, there's different things we're looking for in Star Wars, and Andor checks a lot of the boxes. I mean, there's definitely that battle of good versus evil, and it's not very hard. I mean, there's some morally gray things happening, but you can tell who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. And man, I'm a big fan of it. I love how it's sort of even though when it came out there were certainly like, oh, these people are this political group or what. It's more timeless than that. I feel like Tony channels something a little bit deeper than just like a modern day current political landscape. Like he's channeling some serious stuff, like I think George Lucas did. So
it's it's really subtle, so you don't have to deal with a 1-to-1 comparison of like, oh, this is a reflection of this president.
Yeah.
It makes you kind of dig a little bit deeper to see, oh, here's maybe some of the parallels.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, let's go to number 4. I got a good one, bro. This is getting good.
My number 4 was that we got a final season of Clone Wars.
Oh, talk about it, because that'll come into play with mine a little bit.
Well, I mean, just the fact that after years we got a bookend to the Clone Wars series, something that felt like it had ended. Yeah, something that ended so abruptly. So to get such a good like closure to the Clone Wars, but also a door to open to the Bad Batch.
True. Yeah, that's right. And that is a George Lucas concept. We didn't mention that when I mentioned the Bad Batch, but the Bad Batch was an idea straight from the mind of the creator himself, George Lucas. So there's something about that. There's something about, like you said, being able to tie up the loose ends of not just the Clone Wars, but I would say maybe, I don't know if this is true, but like arguably one of the last big ideas from George Lucas.
From George, absolutely.
So that's a great call. It ties directly into my number 4.
Nice.
The Siege of Mandalore, which
is
the final arc of Clone Wars. So we'll talk a little bit more specific about that. I mean, I remember, first off, I can't believe they gave us that arc week by week, which I'm 99% sure they did. Like, wasn't that show airing weekly?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure season 7 aired weekly. And man, what a tough arc to have to sit through and wait week to week.
Yeah, no kidding.
That doesn't even seem right. It doesn't seem like that's what happened, but I guess it did. I don't know. Anyways, I'll look it up later maybe. Or if you know, how about you write in? Let us know. I'm not even going to Google it. I'm always Googling stuff for all of y'all. I'm coming in here with all the Star Wars news.
Somebody set us straight.
Somebody set us straight. Google it for us and let us know. Did the Siege of Mandalore, the final 4 episodes of season 7 of Clone Wars, did it come out week to week, or was it all at one time? I'm thinking it was week to week.
I think so too.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, and do so by, you can call in, record a voice memo, send it to starwarsafterparty@gmail.com, or if you just want to type in something, that's fine too. Let us know. because I really do want to know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Anyways, I'm not gonna Google it. That the final arc there, to me, just how cool it was to get Ahsoka's version of Order 66.
Oh, yeah.
She has such a unique perspective. It just so happens to be like very tied to some it's like arguably, I'll make this argument, from the folks who were not in episode 3, there's no one who is more tied to that film
Than Ahsoka.
when
Yeah.
it comes to Order 66.
Yeah.
Like, we'll see Grogu in flashbacks of Order 66. We'll see Cal Kestis, Kanan Jarrus. All that is interesting and all that is cool, but no one is as directly fundamental to what happened as Ahsoka. You know, she was literally right there with Obi-Wan and Anakin moments before. It was the Jedi not trusting her that I think was one of those final nails in the coffin that had Anakin. There's no way Anakin does what Anakin does with Ahsoka right there. No way.
No way.
So, like, absolutely, it's very important that she was not with him, that she was dealing with Maul and doing that stuff. So, got to do it. And while we're on while we are on Clone Wars, I do want to shout out. We've been watching through it in the Patreon, and we've been doing these bonus commentary episodes where I sit down, I put on the Clone Wars, and I've done I think 20 episodes now.
You've been all over the place.
We're getting pretty far in, and we just did the pirate arc. So we got the introduction of my boy, Hondo Ohnaka. So I had a great time recording bonus content. We just dropped those episodes today, 2 episodes. We're doing about, as long as I'm not sick, we're doing like 2 to 3 episodes a week of bonus content in addition to this one. So if you like the show, you want to support it, you want to hear more, head over to patreon.com/Star Wars After Party. You'll get access to the Discord. $3 a month, get you in the door, and we can talk about Star Wars all week together in the Discord. So come hang out with your boys. It's a good time. All right. What are we up to? Number 3?
Number 3.
Ooh. All right. Please.
Hayden Christensen in the Star Wars.
All right.
And live action Clone Wars.
Bringing them back.
Yep.
Talking about Ahsoka, which I just watched that episode, and it's more amazing than you remember. I'll just say it like that. So please give me some more insight to.
Well, I mean, we got a taste of him in Obi-Wan. We got just a little bit of his voice and a little bit of his face in Obi-Wan when
we got that flashback too when they were training.
Well, yeah, that too. That's true. Yeah, we got a Attack of the Clones era flashback of the two of them, which was great, and then just that episode of Ahsoka, watching him, Clone Wars era with Ahsoka, with clone troopers, with Rex.
Talk to me about the difference between, if there is any, Anakin in Hayden Christensen and Obi-Wan, Hayden Christensen and Ahsoka. Do you lean more towards one than the other?
Hayden Christensen with Ahsoka.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I like him. Of
I
course.
like him in a authority position.
Oh,
much more confident. Yeah, I mean, you see that like
much more positive light. He's the villain, and they show his darker side in Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because I mean, well, even in the flashbacks of him with Obi-Wan, he's that like frustrated, hard-headed teenager.
Absolutely.
And then when you see him with Ahsoka, he's got that like characteristic to him, but he does like carry a stronger sense of responsibility because he's kind of he knows that he knows that she's watching everything that he does.
He's a compassionate master, Ahsoka. He really, really is. And I would say of all the things that Anakin was great at, and I mean, ultimately, it was his attachment to these things that led him to the dark side. But he was a great master to Ahsoka, and he was a great leader, general to his clone troopers. I mean, that's something about Anakin that you can never fault. Like, you can talk about, maybe him being too possessive over Padme or too loosey-goosey with the rules of the Jedi, but you can't argue with him being an incredible master to Ahsoka. And we'll talk about that a little bit more because, again, spoiler alert, it's kind of on my list too. So we'll get more into that. What are we at? Number 3. Why do I keep forgetting? Oh, yeah. Episode 6 of Book of Boba Fett, From the Desert comes a stranger.
There it is.
Yeah, it's Cad Bane. It's
Dang, he made it high up on your list.
oh, it's what, dude. The 6th episode of Book of Boba Fett is definitely one of, if not my absolute favorite hours of Star Wars. I mean, it's way up there.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, I'm not one of those people that was like, they took away Grogu just to bring him back 1 year later. That cheapens it because he wasn't gone away long enough. Listen, I don't know about you guys, but 1 year is a long time for me, okay? Like, that's a long time. We've been doing this podcast for just 1 year. It feels like a long time, okay?
Lord.
It's a long time. I don't know.
It feels like it's been 5 years.
Who are these people that 1 year is not a long time? I'm not going to live that long, okay? I got to get my Star Wars while the getting is good.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about them bringing Grogu back 1 year later. That's a long time. Anyways, I will say, okay, sure. From a story standpoint, probably would have been a bit more interesting if Grogu and Mando reunited at the end of season 3 versus the beginning of it. But you know what? I'm not here to make that call. What I'm saying is I am an original trilogy kid. My favorite character of probably anything ever, including like the Bible, like the put it all out there. Luke Skywalker is my guy. Like he's the number one. So yeah, if I can get an hour that has Luke Skywalker looking like, look, y'all
accurate.
can come at me with all of the graphics and the deep fakes and it looks really great, and it looks way better than it looked in the end of season 2 of Mando.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a very short amount of time to make it look that great. I love just the vibes of Luke Skywalker training Grogu, and there's bamboo all around, and they're doing all these things, and he's mimicking Yoda and him and the Empire, and R2's there, and they're building up the Jedi Temple. Come on, dude. This is the stuff that, like, I feel like I dreamed about for 20 years. So, yeah, that episode is one of my favorite hours.
Glorious episode.
It's not even getting into the Mando bit. Mando and Ahsoka? The Mandalorian and Ahsoka Tano are talking on a planet while Luke Skywalker trains a little baby Yoda, and R2's hanging out and they're building a temple. Like, and that's not even to say anything about Cobb Vanth, the Pikes, what's his name? Cad Bane. That's not even touching that. It's not touching the fact that Mando just flew in on an N1. Like, I don't know what we're. I don't know what else do we want, and it's a good story. Like, I just don't know what else we're looking for. I'm not trying to get all in this,
No, dude.
But come on, guys, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yet Book of Boba Fett sucked. What are y'all talking about? I get it. There are some things that were not cool. I see you, little Vespa thing. Yes, I thought it looked weird too. But like, serious? Honorable mention to episode 2. Directed by Stephanie Green, who I want to do way more Star Wars. Boba Fett tripping in the desert, picking out a gaffy stick, and then dancing around a fire, doing tribal dances with Tusken Raider. I don't get it. I don't know what y'all. Yeah, what do y'all think Star Wars is?
That was a great show.
I'm not trying to be like Uncle Tyler trying to teach y'all about Star Wars, but dude, like, I can go on about Book, but you started it with the Sarlacc pit. Like, I don't know what y'all want, man. This stuff is sick, man.
And then we closed the season with like giant droidicas, basically.
Those things from I don't know what it was from, and then the big orc-like, or not orc, but the troll-like thing. Then you know, having a what's the word I'm looking for? Trainer, what kind of beast is it? Rancor, the Rancor coming out, you know, like all
and
that.
Freaking what's his name as the Rancor trainer?
Machete. Machete.
Gosh, what is his name?
The character's name in the show?
No, the man's name.
Machete.
I thought he had a full.
What do you mean?
Full name.
Oh, I don't know what his.
I can't remember what his full name is.
That's like
Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo. Machete is a character that he plays, but to me, he's Machete.
Yeah.
Anyways, I mean, there's just so much. There was that 4th episode where obviously they went and got the Slave One out of Jabba's palace. Like, this is just the coolest.
You get huts in it.
You get Black Chrysanthemum from the comics, like in the episode with 2 huts rolling up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
Let's just pause. Let's pause the whole top 10 episode. Let's just do everything we love about the book of Boba Fett.
I don't know. I don't get it. Like, I get it in the sense of, like, I'm not dense. I can see when things on a screen look a little off, or I can feel it when maybe a plot isn't moving quite
But we got Thundercat in Star Wars too.
But we got Thundercat.
Skip
in
over
a post-credit scene resurrecting Cobb Vanth. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, no, and he was working on Fennec Shan too. Remember the flashback? Yeah,
there's that too. There's all that. I mean, literally Thundercat.
Skip over the Power Ranger scene. It sucked.
That.
It was terrible. Like,
and I will say, without naming names right this minute, there are some. I learned in that season that there are some directors who I don't jive with as much when it comes to Star Wars, which is strange because I liked some of their previous work on Star Wars, but neither here nor there. The point is, like, yeah, there was some stuff that was off with it, but I think that maybe, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if it's just like the age I am, or I don't know, but like, I just don't know how we can't watch something like Book of Boba Fett, be like, yeah, there are a couple things that are kind of weird. That's been every Star Wars ever, I feel like. And there's so much that is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. Sometimes I want, you know what? I'm going to say it. I think some of these Star Wars fans, I think they jumped onto what was hot and trendy and cool, man. I don't know how many of them are dyed in the wool, bro. I just don't know. I'm not trying to say who is or isn't. I'm not. I'm just wondering if maybe a lot of the complaining we hear are from people that maybe, haven't been in the fight for as long. I'll just say it like that. I'm not trying to say, oh, yo, look at me, I got 30 years. I'm not. It's not about that, because I know some kids that like Star Wars and they've been watching Star Wars for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
those kids are Star Wars fans. So it's not really about how long. It's more about, like, why'd you get into it? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just a question.
Yeah.
Anyways, before that gets blown out of proportion, number 2, what you got, Cameron?
Well, I mean, I wrote down Mandoverse, but when I wrote that down, I really just meant the Book of Mando Fett.
Okay,
that whole, all of Mandalorian,
so all the stuff we just talked about with the Book of Boba Fett,
and Ahsoka too. But, like, I mean, think about this, like,
brother, I think we might should just go ahead and finish our 2s and our 1s, because we're going to be talking about the same thing.
Well,
I'm just saying, my number 2 is Ahsoka.
Okay.
And I do want to talk about that. My number 1 is the show, The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian, yeah.
So,
but think about,
that's my list. What's your number 1?
My number 1 is Rogue One.
Okay.
That's always going to be my number 1.
We'll come back to that. But now let's talk about Mandoverse. Let's talk about Ahsoka. Let's talk about The Mandalorian.
I mean, think about what, if you take away all of The Mandalorian and you take away all of Ahsoka, what else would Star Wars have been doing the past couple of years?
Good question.
And would it have been as good? Like, we got them exploring a new era of Star Wars that tied in just enough to familiar things to, like, really pull you in. The exploration of, I mean, Mandalorians as characters, the culture, the planet, Boba Fett, Jango Fett, lived on the fringes of Star Wars for a long time. They got into a room and decided the next Star Wars project we're going to do is called The Mandalorian, and it's going to follow Din Djarin, who's someone who actually lives by the code, and we're going to introduce all this stuff about the religion of Mandalore into it. And now, like, the Mandalorian is, like, one of the most well-known names in Star Wars.
Right.
So it's just,
a great point.
It's crazy to think, like, how much effort has been put into telling those stories, but like, where would we be in 2024 Star Wars without the Mandoverse?
Man, it'd be rough, because I feel like the Mandalorian bought so much, like, good grace for Lucasfilm after the sequel trilogies. which while they didn't make my list, there are reasons for that I'm not going to necessarily get into right now. But I would say that a couple of those movies are at least one of the sequels would be in my top 5 if I was to make one. I think that's true.
Next week we'll do 10 things you love about the sequel trilogy and 10 things I hate about it.
Oh, I mean, that's actually kind of interesting. I'd be down to do that, but you'd have to watch the sequels because I'd want you to really be able to defend your position. So let me know when you're ready to watch the sequels.
It's been a couple of years. It's probably about time for me to rewatch
I'm thinking that some great bonus content right there for the holidays. People got all this time off. Would be for us to watch and do bonus commentary on the sequels together, baby.
Let's sit down one evening.
All right.
With a couple drinks.
Okay.
And we will live record audio of us.
Let's do it.
Feuding over the sequel trilogy.
No feud. You're gonna like come out of it. You're like, man.
You're gonna be like, dude, isn't that so cool? And I'll be like, dude, that is literally what I hate about all of this.
Oh, now that's possible. that's possible. All right. Back to our actual number 2, Mando versus Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Let me say this, man. I rewatched Ahsoka this week, like I said earlier, and man, from just the mythological side of things, like it's amped up. It's more. I would say it might be more mythological than I don't know. It's hard to say. There's a lot more symbolism in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
That's a lot more blatant than, say, what you would get in George Lucas Star Wars. George Lucas certainly took from lots of different religions, and there's different, chosen one myths and virgin births and things like that. Like there's a lot of things that are tied into the mythology of humanity, really. But I feel like Dave leans a lot more into the symbolism and a lot of the different natures of like a little bit more specific into like Greek mythology and things like that. And it's just so cool, man. I love that. Almost every episode, literally almost every episode, these are some fun facts for you. Almost every episode has a lightsaber battle. I think at least, and when I say lightsaber battle, I am counting Ahsoka with a lightsaber. Listen to this. Ahsoka with a lightsaber in space on a ship cutting down. Yes, that did happen.
That's true.
And I think every episode, if not, then it would be 7 out of the 8. But I think every episode had a lightsaber ignited and cool things happening.
I just thought about another scene that I should have added into my list.
We'll get your honorable mention, but I say all that to say there's that. You forget that Hayden Christensen is in 4 of 8 episodes. He's at the very end of 4. He's in all of 5.
Gosh.
He's got the training sequence in 7, and he's a Force Ghost in 8. He's all over it. The show is just racked with great characters. The acting, the costuming, Baylan Skoll, Shin Hati, all of that stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's so great. It's so great. And I think that while I understand why people call it Rebel Season 5, come on, it's not Rebel Season 5. It is something very different. I'm sorry. I'm on it. I'm calling them like I see them. Yes, there are characters from Rebels. No, I disagree that you have to watch Rebels to understand what's going on. You can see characters, know that they have a past together, not have to know every detail of the past in order to enjoy it. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. So, all that to say, Ahsoka, one of my favorites. Everyone should at least watch it. I'm surprised when people watch it and don't love it, but it is what it is. I like Mellow Yellow. You like Pepsi. Fine. Cool. All right. Actually, that explains a lot. Then I'm a Mellow Yellow guy.
I saw somebody drinking a Mellow Yellow the other day.
I don't drink them like I used to. I have one every few months, I guess. But when I do, I always love it. And then I said Mando. Just a quick shout before you give your honorable mention and talk a little bit about Rogue One. Quick shout about Mando would just be the surprise of Grogu. I mean, the fact that it was a secret. The fact that when it happened, I remember sitting in my room, my living room, watching it by myself. It was such a magical experience. It was not what I expected in terms of the tone of the show and everything. It was great to get Baby Yoda at the end and for me to literally go, it's a Baby Yoda. And then you get on the internet and it's just
everybody's freaking out about Baby Yoda.
Everyone called it. It's just like we all knew. And then, Lucasfilm's like the child. It's Baby. come on, it's Baby Yoda. There's so many great episodes. There's so many great moments. Luke Skywalker returning, great. Ahsoka making her live action. Bo-Katan making her live action. There's just so much great stuff throughout The Mandalorian. I love it. It's one of my favorite things in Star Wars ever, So your number one was Rogue One. What was your honorable mention that you talked about?
My honorable mention was the scene of Luthen from Andor. That scene of him deploying those bombs that hit that radar on the Imperial ship and just like completely dismantled the entire thing.
Yeah.
That
whole
had
the lasers.
Yeah, that whole sequence of that space battle was
so sick.
It was like, yeah, but you just had me thinking about the Grogu name change and everything, and the little like Pelimoto
I'm
comment.
not calling him that.
Yeah, I'm not calling. That was like such a nod. That was a John Favreau nod to like fans of like, yeah, we get it. You guys all call him Baby Yoda, but
yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything to say about Rogue One. It's just my favorite Star Wars movie. Awesome. It's great from the start to finish, and I think it is the singular best piece of content that Disney Star Wars has produced.
I'm with you. It's definitely up there for me. It's one of my favorite films, although I have not watched it in a while because I'm waiting until after Andor season 2 for. So I've had a long waiting for Rogue One. If I would have known it was going to be like 4 years in between season 1 and season 2, I might would have I don't know,
done it sooner.
3 years, but either way. That said, man, does that do it for you?
Yeah, I got it.
Through all 10.
That's it.
All right, well, let's land the ship. Much like always, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We might be talking about the sequels. 10 things I love and 10 things Cameron hates. I don't know. That sounds interesting. Let us know. If you want us to do it, we'll do it. You just got to tell us. I think Cameron's mic is messing up because he's being so negative over there about the sequels. I'm just kidding. It's probably because I messed something up. I don't know. You good? Can you talk?
I can talk.
All right, good.
Here I am.
He's just doing some weird stuff. It's all good. At least we made it through. Made it through all 10. We would love to know what you guys like. Why don't you tell us? What are your favorite? You don't have to go 10 deep, but if you want to, I mean, it was pretty fun writing the list.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I was working on this thing all day.
Great. So if you want to write us in, if you want to call in, feel free. You know what to do. starwarsafterparty@gmail.com. Until then, Tyler out.
Cameron out.
This party's over.